Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final day of Disability and Work in Canada 2020. My name is Dr. Mahadeo Sukai. I serve as the Head of Research and Chief Accessibility Officer for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, or CNIB. And in this role, I have the privilege of overseeing a nationwide team of highly qualified researchers and accessibility professionals, including students, postdocs, and academic collaborators, many of whom, myself included, have lived experiences with disabilities. It is an honor and pleasure to serve as your MC for the final day of the conference at the invitation of the DWC 2020 Steering Committee. I would like to begin today's session by acknowledging and thanking the many First Nations communities whose traditional territory we are situated on. I want to personally acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. I am a settler in these lands, having been born in the South American country of Guyana and come to this country 31 years ago from the island of Barbados. And I'm grateful to live today as an uninvited guest upon these lands. For generation upon generation, First Nations people have long been stewards of the lands and waters across our country, and I want to thank them for their knowledge and wisdom. To acknowledge the traditional territory is to recognize its longer history, one predating the establishment of the earliest European colonies. It is also to acknowledge this territory's significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it, and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship with the territory and its other inhabitants today. I'm going to offer some brief remarks on reflections on yesterday, day 3 of the conference. We had over 350 registrants, people from coast to coast to coast, from diverse stakeholder groups, persons with lived experience, service providers, federal and provincial governments, disability support program providers, and employers. We had influential people who've been paying attention to this conference and our work. A wide variety of stakeholders participated as speakers, panelists, and moderators, organizations serving persons with disabilities, advocacy groups, government officials, business and labor representatives. Many speakers have lived experience, and some of those experiences are intersectional in nature. Many promising initiatives from across the country have been profiled, and there has been substantial engagement in parallel sessions. The Q&A has been very, very active. Yesterday's keynote, of course, was Al Etmansky, writer, community organizer, and disability advocate. Al emphasized the need to change how we go about making change as the theme of his presentation. If we seek a transformation in institutions, he argued, and in our structure, then we need to transform the way that we make change. We need to rebrand the notion of disability from people needing help to having others see the benefits of our inclusion. Power, force, and value of people with disabilities were all themes that Al touched on, and that it was important for us to consider how to usher in that full force, the moral, social, political, cultural, and economic power of people with disabilities. We need to promote a movement of people with disabilities, and recognizing in that movement there is no one leader, and there are lots of people who are engaged in that effort. There is a power if we convene and unify the community, and that allows us to take charge of the process of change and shift the cultural and popular perception of disability. The phrase "nothing about us without us" was mentioned a few times throughout the conference already, and that also means taking charge of this process. The parallel sessions from day 3 included a report from projects funded by Accessibility Standards Canada, a session on mentorship, advancement, and promotion of persons with disabilities, a session on a multidimensional view of the school-to-work transitions of young people with disabilities, highlighting opportunities for policy and practice, a presentation by the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians on its Inclusive Employment Advocacy Project. This innovative project was developed by persons with disabilities and was informed by their experiences in the employment market. The project has had significant uptake by major employers and has made a real impact on attitudes and practices. We also had a presentation on strengthening supports for employees with episodic disabilities. We learned about lessons and challenges from the review of the Workers' Compensation Board in British Columbia, the New Directions report in 2019. And we also learned about closing the autism employment gap in Canada. As a note, I will just mention that as of this morning, Accessibility Standards Canada has published a call for applications for 2 of its technical committees, one on emergency preparedness and one on employment. And that call is publicly available. And I would certainly encourage everybody attending this conference to consider applying for either or both of those committees going forward. I want to touch briefly on the importance of the conference and today's theme. And I'm going to start by saying that you've heard from some of my team members and myself a few times during the conference about the research that we're undertaking at CNIB, research which at its core has been informed by our personal experiences as researchers and with disabilities and by our professional experience and skills. Tomorrow is International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and the phrase "nothing about us without us," or abbreviated and more appropriately, "nothing without us," has been used, as I said, a few times this conference. When I took over as head of research and CAO at CNIB, I made it a mission statement of the team that not only would we do research into accessibility, inclusion, and the lived experience, but we would also do so using inclusive mindset, methods, and principles. I also made it a mission statement to recruit, retain, and develop team members and researchers with lived experience with disabilities as part of their social identities. The combination of these 2 goals has led to a rewarding, inclusive research enterprise. I think it is very important to reflect on how our cultural backgrounds, upbringing, and lived experiences may influence our professional practice. Today's theme is moving forward together, and critical to being together in this important work is the recognition that all of us bring our perspectives and experiences, and yes, our biases, to our research and practice. And to move forward together means that we take the time to acknowledge to each other what those perspectives, experiences, and biases may be. In today's sessions, we will have one final round of parallel presentations and discussions, and then we'll all reconvene for the keynote fireside chat between Perrin Beatty, President and CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and Hassan Youssef, President of the Canadian Labour Congress. We will then close with steering committee reflections and our closing plenary session and wrap up by 4 p.m. Eastern. Before I let you go into the parallel sessions, I have to do the obligatory logistics and housekeeping. You've heard this 3 times already. I will do my best to make it sound entertaining to you today, this last time. First of all, an overview of ways in which we are aiming to make this conference accessible. For live sessions and all Q&A sessions, we are providing accessibility services such as bilingual closed captioning and ASL interpretation. Captions are available for live parts of the session through a streaming URL, as well as by clicking the CC or closed captions button at the bottom of your screen. When a pre-recorded video is being played, the embedded captions on the video are available. And an ASL interpreter will also be available. To view the video of an ASL interpreter on your screen, please click the View Options button at the top of your screen, which is beside the green You Are Viewing Webinar Hosts screen button. And then check off the side-by-side mode in the drop-down menu. This will change the video layouts to the aforementioned side-by-side mode. We are also providing English to French language interpretation for one bilingual session. On-demand videos include both English and French captions. We requested speakers to provide us with accessible materials if they wish to publish on the website, such as including alternative texts for their images on slides or providing them in Word or text format. And all of this will be found in the session description and on the conference materials page. If navigating the website is not accessible to you, you can send us an email to receive an alternative agenda in Word with links to join the conference sessions. Regarding the chat feature, on Friday, you will have received an email letting you know that the chat would be open for you to chat with your fellow conference attendees. However, unfortunately, opening up the chat will create accessibility issues for people who use screen readers. Therefore, we'll keep the chat option so that you can chat with the panelists only. If you're looking for technical support, there is a chat box for technical support available at the bottom right corner of the website for those having trouble accessing the virtual sessions. You can also visit the FAQ page on the conference website for answers to common questions as well. Please also refresh your page for any updates to the agenda and the FAQs. To watch the sessions, you must add the sessions you want to watch to your agenda on the conference website. Make sure you are logged in. Go to the conference agenda page and click on the title of each session you are interested in viewing. Add it to your agenda if it is not already there by clicking on the register and add to my agenda button. You can then join or watch by clicking the join presentation button. Conference sessions will be recorded and available on the conference website for 3 months after the conference, as well as the opportunity to network with your conference attendees through the conference platform. To ask a question during the live Q&A, please type your question into the Q&A box, not the chat box. This Q&A box will be monitored and moderated during the question and answer sessions by the facilitators of the session. You may also raise your hand in Zoom, and the panelist will then unmute you and you can ask your question. If you're looking for the keyboard shortcuts to raise your hand, it's Alt-Y if you're using a PC and Option-Y if you're using a Mac. I hope that you enjoy the last set of parallel sessions today, and we will meet back in just over an hour for the keynote fireside chat. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.